There's a false choice in the watch world between dress watches and sport watches. A lot of YouTubers, including me, have portrayed it as a fork in the road. Form to the left, function to the right, but really it's more of an open field. So we've highlighted 10 watches from 10 different brands that do both at the same time. G.A.D.A, go anywhere, do anything. They're also all available under $10,000. Yes, there's a Rolex, yes, there's a Cartier, yes, there's an Omega, but we've got 7 other brands hitting this sweet spot. As we talk through these, you'll be able to feel how well each option could fit into your life. Think of these like James Bond watches. You can wear them with a tuxedo to a fancy party, but also jump in the water to escape when Spectre turns their guns on you. Speaking of which, let's start with watch number 1. Up first is an all-around winner from Omega. James Bond famously wore an Omega Seamaster 300M, at least in the films where Omega has been involved. But any watch with a diving bezel feels too casual for life's dressier occasions. With that in mind, let's look at the Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra. This is a popular choice for a Datejust alternative, as many of you pointed out in the comments on a recent video. The Aqua Terra is capable and the details are sharp. The case features twisted lugs with a nice mix of brushed and polished surfaces, and many have dials inspired by the planks of wood on a ship deck. Add on a chronometer certified movement, a subtle date window, plenty of water resistance, and you're good to go. It also comes in a variety of dial colors and case sizes, so no matter how big your wrist is or what colors you like, you'll be able to find one that appeals to you. It's not a watch that gets a whole lot of press, but Omega has spent ample time honing this watch into a formidable everyday piece. We're going from the west to the east and talking about, of course, Grand Seiko. Grand Seiko is another brand well suited for the daily driver category, although their watches lean a tad bit more dressy than they do sporty. Or at least when Grand Seiko goes sporty, they go perhaps a little too sporty where it feels inauthentic. The brand has some GMTs that could fit the bill here, fitting a useful complication inside a sophisticated package. But let's focus on one that's become a fan favorite, and that's the SBGA 413, better known as the Shunbun. It features a screw-down crown and 100 meters of water resistance. It's also titanium for improved comfort. The signature Zaratsu polishing offers a flash of brilliance, but like the Cartier Santos bezel, does make it more prone to scratching. However, you won't even notice with a dial like this. The Shunbun name has its origins in the cherry blossoms that burst open every spring, and likewise, this dial really comes alive in the light. Once you see it, you'll believe it. Chronographs can often feel too sporty for formal occasions thanks to the multiple subdials, the extra hands, and of course the pushers. But that's not the case with the Zenith Elite Chronograph Classic. The visual design is more elegant and more streamlined than nearly any other chrono on the market, thanks to slim square pushers, elongated hands and hour markers, and a dial that's as minimal as can be. The Elite series is Zenith's dressy approach to watchmaking, and it's a magic combo when applied to their legendary El Primera caliber. Sure, the 50 meters of water resistance is less than what you might be comfortable swimming with, but there's no danger in getting this watch wet. You can also find them on Chrono24 for under $5,000, making it a strong value proposition. This is the first of 2 divers on the list. Breitling makes many variations of the Super Ocean, the same way Omega has a variety of Seamasters. The one we're focusing on today is the Super Ocean Heritage 57. You can call it a dress diver, if that's a thing. It's a dive watch that places a high value on aesthetics and most notably is quite thin, coming in under 10 millimeters. If you're a vintage fan, then you're gonna like the dial that calls back to the early iterations of the Super Ocean. You have a small handful of colors to choose from, but I think the brown and the black work best. No comment on the rainbow. To top it off, the mesh bracelet looks more sartorial than the standard Super Ocean bracelet. So yeah, I guess dress divers are a thing after all. It's not officially on the list, but the Tudor Black Bay 54 could potentially fall into this category as well. Okay, so here's the tough part. Rolex has a few models that would make great go anywhere, do anything watches. They do this category better than anyone else. The Datejust and the Oyster Perpetual are natural choices. In fact, the Datejust is the best-selling watch on Chrono24, and it's safe to assume that those watches are getting a lot of wrist time. But there's another watch that fits perfectly in this category, the Rolex Explorer 1. The Explorer 1 is a clean and minimal take on a time-only sport watch. The smooth bezel, the Oyster bracelet, and the 369 dial layout fly under the radar more than a fluted bezel and Jubilee combination would. It also looks great on a strap if you want to personalize it, dress it up, or have it look a little different than the average Explorer. Of course, it's got the water resistance and build quality you would expect from Rolex, and the prices aren't too bad either. The last benefit that I'll mention, one that's not on the spec sheet, is that this watch just looks good on everyone. Next up is the luxury SUV of the watch world. It's the Cartier Santos, combining a brutalist brick bracelet and a classic Cartier dial. The latest models have 100 meters of water resistance, so it's more capable than some might expect. And the Smart Link adjustment system helps resize the watch in summer when our wrists naturally expand. One downside that we hinted at before is that it's not the best if you hate scratches. The polished flat bezel is a magnet for small scuffs, although they're only really visible in direct light. Cartier has recently expanded this collection beyond the classic white dial to include a dark green and dark blue. And because it's Cartier, there are two-tone and precious metal options as well. The Santos would look pretty great on a strap if you really want to dress it up, but the bracelet here is just so handsome. Nomos has a couple watches capable of tackling both dress and sport. No surprise, as the Germans are all about efficiency. The first one is the Club, which is a fun watch coming in all kinds of colors that stands only 8.2 millimeters tall. You've got 100 meters water resistance and loomed hands and hour markers here too. So you could go for the Club, but perhaps the best option here is the Ahoy. It doesn't get as much attention as the Club or the Tangente, but it functions as a kind of a cross between the two. You have the Nomos signature Bauhaus styling on the dial, the angular lugs, and those little pops of color throughout. But you also get crown guards, you get 200 meters of water resistance, and it's still only 10.2 millimeters tall. The Nomos design language isn't for everyone, but if you do like it, it's helpful to know that you can achieve this look without sacrificing durability. Well, here we are. The Tissot PRX is on yet another top 10 list. But that's all for a reason. If I was starting my collection over and only had $1,000 at most, this is how I would spend it. The same principles that make this watch a winner also apply to the Royal Oak, the Overseas, the Nautilus, but we're keeping this list firmly under 10,000. Like those high-end watches, it's simplicity and capability in a unified package that feels as much like a sculpture as it does a watch. You likely already know everything you need to know about this watch, so here's a little anecdote. You may remember our interview with Raymond Trin, a Michelin-starred chef and restaurateur who also happens to be the nicest watch nerd in fine dining. Multiple members of the staff at his restaurant, 63 Clinton, wear the PRX, which shows that it's a watch that can handle a very hands-on line of work and blend into a polished environment. Tissot has a hit on their hands and they know it, so we're excited to see what comes next with the PRX. This IWC Pilot shares a lot of key genetic traits as the Rolex Explorer 1 in terms of a go anywhere, do anything watch. The size is pretty identical at 36 millimeters wide by about 10 millimeters thick, and the dial is as readable as possible. The IWC Pilot is also a masterful example of including only what you need and nothing you don't. It's the watch you wear when you just want to wear a watch. The blue dial version comes on a blue leather strap, but the most versatile option is the black dial version on the 5-link bracelet, which is not only better suited for water and sweat, but the 5-link construction allows the bracelet to fluidly wrap around the wrist. Longines has been on a roll recently, as we see with the latest version of the Longines Legend Diver. Truth be told, we could have chosen the new Conquest for this slot as well. The Legend Diver was previously too large and too small. Now it's in that sweet spot of 39 millimeters. The lack of a date window is a deal breaker for some, but for others it offers a cleaner presentation. It's also more aligned with the origins of the Legend Diver. As we've seen with other divers of late, Longines offer this watch in either a blue or black configuration. One thing to be aware of is that the timing system is not the easiest to operate. The inner rotating bezel requires you to unscrew the crown before adjusting it, which also means you should take the watch off your wrist to avoid bending the winding stem. So it's not the most efficient system, but it makes the watch look more attractive and sets it apart from other divers in its price point. Those are 10 go anywhere, do anything watches from 10 different brands, all under $10,000, but they're not the only 10. If you have another one in mind you want to recommend, drop it down in the comment below and let us know what your go anywhere, do anything watch is. I'm Thomas Hendricks with Chrono 24. We'll see you next time.